Good morning to members of the media, those of you who are tuned in live on the St. Lucia Labour Party's page. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. My name is Lisa Jawa here, Communications Director of the St. Lucia Labour Party. I have with me to my left, General Secretary of the party, Mr. Leo Clark, and to my right, the Deputy Chairman of the SLP, Mr. Michael Willius. Today we are really excited to have this conversation with the media, those of you who are in the diaspora, those of you who are tuned in at home, driving or at work or wherever you may be. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have a lot of exciting discussions. We want to have this conversation. If you, the media, if you have any questions, please let us know. At this moment, I will hand over to my General Secretary, Mr. Leo Clark, for opening comments.
Good morning. And thank you for being here, members of the press. I want to start off the press conference this morning, as far as my role is concerned, with providing some information relating to the upcoming annual conference of delegates of the St. Lucia Labour Party. As is customary and which is demanded by the constitution of the party, we will hold an annual conference of delegates annually. Our party started in 1950, so this year we are celebrating 73 years of the existence of our party. So one can say this is the 73rd conference of delegates of our party. The purpose of the conference of delegates is really to bring together representatives as delegates from all 17 constituencies of the party, along with our two auxiliaries. We have a youth auxiliary, which we call the St. Lucia Labour Party Youth Organization, and we have women's auxiliary, which is the St. Lucia Labour Party Women's Organization. So our constituency groups, along with the two auxiliaries, will make up the delegates. And from each constituency, there would be 15 delegates plus 3 executives from each of the 17, and the women and youth auxiliaries would send 10 delegates each. The annual conference of delegates is really the Labour Party's highest decision-making body. The highest authority of the Labour Party rests in the annual conference of delegates. Below the annual conference of delegates, there are other tiers of authority. The second tier, which presides over the business of the party between annual conferences, is called the National Council. And the National Council gives direction to the National Executive. And below that, you have the constituency groups and you have branches and so on. We try as much as possible to maintain that structure, both in terms of making our party viable and keeping it relevant to the electorate and the general populace of the country. This year we hold, well, let me first say we normally hold 2 sessions of conference. The first one we call the open session of conference, and the second one the closed session of conference. I will start with the close because it's straightforward. The closed session of conference deals with the internal business of the party. So the delegates sit for reports on how the business of the party has been conducted for the year since the last conference. So there's a national executive report, there are reports from the treasurer, there are reports from the auxiliaries, and there are reports from different groups. We deal with resolutions that have been put together or crafted with the purpose of keeping all the time reviewing the structure of the party, its function and so on, and through those resolutions to open up new areas that the party needs to embrace to keep it modern, to keep it relevant. So, and then we have election of officers. That's the closed session. The open session of conference is a more hyped up kind of conference, which is open to the public, open to the supporters of the party, and of course, the delegates are also intended to attend. We invite at the open session the diplomatic corps of the country, other civil society, some of our fraternal organizations. So it's open. Traditionally, we have used a format for the open session where we take on the key speeches of the day, and they are the primary one being the political leaders' statement to conference, which covers a review of what has transpired in the year gone, and provide a direction for the party to pursue in the coming period. So that is the role of the political leader at that open session. We also invite a guest speaker, and usually we try to get somebody who we believe can share wisdom with the party, and by extension share wisdom with the country, because we try to televise the open session of conference, and we will do so again this year. And this year we have been fortunate to be able to get the Prime Minister of Grenada to be the guest speaker for this year's conference. As some of you all may know, Honorable Dickon Mitchell became Prime Minister of Grenada in June 2022. In fact, it's amazing that he became Prime Minister just 8 months after he got into politics, after he was made political leader of the National Democratic Congress, the NDC. And so we're excited to have him, because we think that he brings, of course, a breath of fresh air to the regional politics, and we hope that he can share his fresh vision also with us by being our guest speaker this year. So we expect him to be an exciting addition to this year's annual conference of delegates. The theme for this year's conference is moving forward together. What's the purpose of moving forward together? We believe it's a call to action. It is a call for the party faithful to embrace, first of all, the work that is being done by the government, and to provide in whatever way possible its support for the positions, the policies, the programs of the government, and to do it as a collective, and to extend that to the wider population in terms of embracing the direction that the country is going. I suppose we may have, during the course of our interaction this morning, an opportunity to discuss through your questions, if you have, what our view is, what's our perspective on the direction that the country is going. So on Sunday, the 12th of November, this coming Sunday, we meet in Fontaso Babonneau. This is where we're going to be doing the open session at the Fontaso Primary School. We expect to start about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And the change that I said in terms of format is that whereas before the primary focus of the open session was the main speech by the political leader and our guest speaker, this year we want to change it and make it a kind of a concert production. That is what we're going to do this year, meaning that instead of making the speeches dominant, and we want to avoid what seemed to be easy boredom that people develop with political speeches and so on, and mix it with in a concert form. So we are engaging a number of local artists who will be performing inspirational songs and other acts, so that the speeches will be placed in a kind of a context of concert that it's enjoyable, and it's going to be televised, it's going to be live streamed, it's going to be on Choice, it's going to be on NBC, and it's also going to be on HTS. We expect it to be like a 3-hour session, and we want it to move quickly and smoothly to the point that people can enjoy it and leave with a good impression. And then we move to the closed session, which happens on the 26th of November at the Beanfield Secondary School in Vieux-Fort South. So by way of the beginning, I think I have given you in a nutshell what the annual conference is all about.
Thank you very much, General Secretary, for giving us some background information on what we can expect this Sunday. St. Lucia, we are truly excited because it is going to be the biggest open conference the SLP has ever seen. And you can expect the entertainment, as General Secretary Leo Clark said. You can expect the powerful, inspirational, and moving speeches by Honorable Deacon Mitchell. And if you recall, Honorable Deacon Mitchell did what most people did not think he could do. He was able to win and bring home the seat to the National Democratic Congress. A young man into office at the age of 44, doing great things. So really proud of our comrades, and we know that we have persons outside of St. Lucia who will be part and parcel of the celebrations on Sunday. And I now move over to Deputy Chairman of our party, Mr. Michael Williams, for his comments.
Okay, good morning to all who are receiving us, radio, television, online. I think the General Secretary has actually given a very good outline of the conference, what it is all about, its structure, how it's going to be delivered, why we are having our conference of delegates on a yearly basis. I just wanted to say that it's part of our governance structure within our party. Our party is well and alive, and we want to continue to promote our party and to promote that governance in our party and strong leadership. Prior to the annual conference of delegates, we have 17 constituencies, and every one of the 17 constituencies have to hold their own conference. They must have what we call, they would, starting as early as April, May, we would have a series of annual general meetings or constituency conferences where they would also elect their own executive to manage the affairs of each constituency for the next year. So after you complete the cycle of every 17 constituency putting up their own conference, then we have, it culminates into the big party conference of delegates where we have 15 delegates from 17 constituencies coming together as delegates at the annual conference of delegates. So it speaks well to the fact that for a very long time, we have maintained that structure, we have maintained those processes, and it's a continuation of the fact that we have a party that is well and alive, and we do have structures and processes by which we run the party, and that is very important to us. We keep to the constitution of the party, just like we keep to the constitution of the country. So that's where we are today.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, members of the media. Thank you, General Secretary. And thank you, Mr. Williams, General Secretary Leo Clark, and Mr. Michael Williams, Deputy Chairman of the St. Lucia Labour Party. At this moment, we want to open up the floor for questions. I know you haven't seen our lovely faces in a while, although you see some of us on television and you interact with some of us on a weekly basis. You know, it's always good to know who's really driving the force behind the party. And the St. Lucia Labour Party is truly known as a party that is organized. We are very focused on ensuring that our internal business is secure. And that is why the 17 constituencies, as Mr. Willius mentioned, had to get their business in order, elect their chairpersons, elect their executives to support what the parliamentary rep is doing, yes, and also to establish a Labour Party organ in each constituency, that if you have any challenges, you can come to your party with any questions you may have. Of course, our role is here to simply support the initiatives of the government to ensure that what we campaigned on our manifesto promise of you the people leading up to the 2021 general elections, we were able to present to you a manifesto which you accepted, and right now in the House of Parliament we have a 15-2 majority. Again, thank you to the people of St. Lucia for choosing the St. Lucia Labour Party as your party to lead this country, for putting your faith in Honorable Philip J. Pierre as a leader you can trust, and of course a cabinet of ministers who continue to support and put initiatives in place that we continue to put the people of St. Lucia first. Again, thank you to the media, those who are watching. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to facilitate at this moment.
Jason Darius, Choice TV. I just want
Choice TV?
Yes, Choice TV. Just wanted to know, like, what does it do to actually bring everybody in this one space, especially for the open session? How does it really help to unify the party and bring everybody under that one voice, that one banner? What does it really do for party cohesion going forward?
But I would say it does everything for party cohesion. As a matter, that's not the only level of interaction with the party faithful spread throughout the country in constituencies and so on. First of all, we demand that our constituency groups remain faithful to the Constitution and do what they have to do, meet regularly and interact with people, form branches in all the key polling divisions in the constituency, so that annually what we do is we take representatives from all the key areas in the constituency, first of all, bring them in as delegates to allow them a voice in the decision making of the party, okay, to make them feel the sense of belonging, so that things are not just being handed down to them. They can come up with resolutions to make changes to the way we are approaching things, and those resolutions are debated at conference, and the decisions that are made are decisions that people can buy in, because it's done in a very democratic way. So what it does, in fact, is to provide ownership to the delegates and the constituencies in the business of the party, in the decisions that have been made by the party, so that it's not like a leadership just handing down decisions to all persons.
Fair enough. And I guess going forward, how does this really shape everything going into election mode? I would imagine that this is preparation for the elections coming up. Just how are you guys feeling going into the elections, and how does this help with preparations and everything?
Not even halfway.
So without seeming repetitive, that is very much one of the key purposes of maintaining the structure. Because if you didn't maintain the structure, first of all, political parties do not have a monopoly on people's minds and what decisions they're going to make and so on. Political parties, therefore, have to ensure that their actions make them attractive to the electorate, that they always seem to be ready and strong in terms of structure, so that they can maintain cohesion in the leadership, and that is the leadership that is offered to the country. So both in government and out of government, it is very important that the party structure remains intact. So election approaches, and those very structures go to work. And then, of course, there's an overlay of what you call a campaign structure. So apart from the regular constituency structure, there's an overlay of a campaign structure that sort of leads the campaign, provide a strategic direction for the campaign, and the strategic direction filters down through down to the branches, because the branches are in the constituency at the grassroots level. So the strategy that is being used for an election, it permeates downwards all the way to the branches. In other words, through National Council, through executive, through executive of constituencies, through the branches. So what you have is a collective effort that is done at an election to try to ensure. Political parties are irrelevant if they don't make themselves relevant to the electorate. And political parties exist to get into government. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you're a pressure group. There's room for pressure groups. You know what I'm saying? But if you want to provide leadership to the country, to implement policies that will help the development of the country, then your focus has to be on ensuring that your party is strong enough to put up a good fight in an election, and to convince people that you are the choice that they should make. Because it's not like you have, you know, like a box of votes locked away somewhere, and then on election time you open it and you pull it and you put it in ballot boxes. No, people are thinking, and the electorate is getting more and more sophisticated. There was a time when you went to constituencies in the 40s and the 50s. You got what I'm saying? And there was no the kind of way information flows now. You could have a meeting in Choiseul and people in Castries would know nothing about it. Today, the way the politics rolls, you must be able to convince. You must be able to present an argument that people find relevant and which they can embrace.
Just finally from here, are there any considerations or any challenges with the, I guess, upcoming elections or anything of that sort that would warrant any sort of concern for the party going forward?
The coming one?
Well, coming election or just what's happening
Election.
on the ground on a whole?
You want me to?
Jason's question. The opposition believes there will be an early election and has called for it. As party chairman,
No, don't give me any new
sorry,
role.
sorry.
General Secretary.
General Secretary, is that something we could see under this administration?
First of all, the General Secretary does not decide when elections are called. I'm sure everybody in this room knows that the person who makes the decision is the Prime Minister. However, I am told that based on a presentation that I made at one of the annual general meetings, where I said that the party, the constituency group, should be ready at all times for an election, that the interpretation was that I was saying there's an early election. That is not true. We admonish our constituencies always to be ready, always to continue preparing yourself. That's the whole purpose while you exist, so that you help the party to get its best chance in the constituency where you exist. That's what it's about. It has nothing to do with whether, I was certainly not saying there's going to be an early election, and I would be out of place to suggest there would have been an early election. And from my place in the party as General Secretary, I haven't heard any discussion at this point about the date of an election. The discussion that's going on in the party is how the government can continue to improve the situation in the country by strengthening some of the programs that are in place in the health sector, in the education sector, in the youth sector, the youth economy and so on, to try to ensure that we do not go into another election and St. Jude Hospital is not completed. Those are the discussions that we are having. That's where the focus is at this point. The focus is not about when we're going to have another election, because there's time for us, for Prime Minister to consider that, or to reveal to us what his considerations are. That's not currently a consideration.
So, Jason, just to add my voice to question you asked, the one before the last. The open conference is really a point of celebration. We bring our people, our delegates from all 17 constituencies and the 2 auxiliaries of the party. And it's a time that we come together and we receive a policy statement from the political leader. We receive some inspiring delivery from our guest speaker, and it's an opportunity for us as party members and supporters to mingle and to mix. But the closed session is different. The closed session is for accountability. The delegates who are coming across the country, once the leadership of the party to account for their stewardship. You need to report to us on what you've done for the past year, what are the challenges, what are the opportunities that are upcoming, and why you operated in the manner you operated. Because you see, when you're a political party and you are preparing for election, you prepare a manifesto. In the manifesto, you make promises. A lot of the input from the manifesto comes from your membership, people you consult with at the community level. So now that you get into government, what is in the manifesto has to be translated into policy. So people have to hold you accountable for what you promise and whether you actually deliver on it. So it's a point of accountability and also to make sure that the leadership keeps to the promises that they make.
To piggyback on that, Karim Nelson on 7 TV. General Secretary said that being attractive to the electorate, but the best way to be attractive to them is to what the people want or fulfill the given mandate. I mean, the window is closing on this current government. So at this point, how well do you think the party has been able to deliver on its promises and possibly areas for improvement?
I believe the party, and I think I sort of touch on some of the areas that the government has been focusing on. First of all, from a party standpoint, we appreciated even on the campaign trail that if the Labour Party won, it was going to inherit a difficult economic situation in the country. And therefore, the Prime Minister, or in his role as the Minister of Finance, had to exercise prudence in the manner that he managed the economy of the country. We have seen that he has been able to take the country through 2 growth periods in the short term that he has been there, and I think that is excellent. In the meantime, he has been more recently actually was able through I'm talking about the financing of St. Jude's, which he has been able to gain from the Saudi fund. Okay? As a matter of fact, I thought it was almost ludicrous that at a point where the Prime Minister had actually been able to secure the money to go on to finish the hospital, that's the point at which the opposition thought that they should be mounting a march. Of course, disregarding the fact that for 3 years they did nothing. And when they left, the hospital was still not completed. And what I say to the leadership of the party, my own position is, avoid an unnecessary debate and argument with UWP. Finish the hospital. To me, that's the most important thing. And that's what will provide me with pleasure that I'm going into another election and the St. Jude Hospital is completed. And back and forth as to who is to blame and who is to... At the end of the day, let us deliver a hospital to the people. So that's just 2. Also, the youth economy. From all indications, the youth economy has attracted a lot of interest among young people, and people are coming forward to draw benefits from it. Okay? In the health sector, apart from the St. Jude situation, the government is also providing certain benefits for older people. That you know about the 80+ concessions that have been provided. You know that the government is working in a diligent way to bring about health, universal health care to the country in the short term, and in other areas like education, expanding on the offer for scholarships and so on, searching for additional scholarships from all parts of the world to try to achieve what was promised in terms of 1 university graduate per household. That is a mission that the government is on. It's a mission to fulfill a particular promise. So you're just dealing now with, these are just some of the sectors. Deputy Chair, I don't know if you want to expand further on this.
As a party, we are quite pleased with the performance of the government. Of course, there's always room for improvement, but halfway through our term, we believe we've done what we promised to the people. As I mentioned earlier, you win the support of the electorate by enunciating in your manifesto what is it you would want to do. If you take that manifesto today and you start to tick, you'd realize one by one we are doing all the things that we promised. We are halfway through, but we are more than halfway through the promises we made in the manifesto. We said we are going to build a youth economy. We started it. We said we are going to give support to small business. We have the MSME loan facility. We said we are going to support housing. One of our first programs was to roll out housing for repairs for people all across the country, $10 million. We're in the phase 2 of that program now. We said we were going to give support to education. We said we were going to get rid of the facilities fees. We said we were going to support paying fees for CXC for maths and English. All the promises we made, if you take the manifesto, you will see that we are ticking it off. We said we are going to finish St. Jude's. We're well on our way to finish St. Jude's. So in fact, I can go on and on and on, and you would see that we are government who campaign on certain promises, and we are delivering on those promises. We said we are going to stabilize the economy, because the economy was in a mess financially. We've done so. We've grown the economy by 18% in the first year, 15% in the second year. This year, we're still on our way to growing the economy. We have managed the finances of the country where we now have a surplus. We inherited a deficit of $200 million. When we came in, the government was owing local businesses $185 million. We've cut it down by over $90 million. So in other words, we've put back an additional $90 million into the economy for small business. So if you look at, as I said, if you look at our promises, which is what you have to judge us on, and if you look at our performance, we are delivering on the promises that we made. So I can say that we as a party, we are satisfied with the performance of the government.
Can I just say just one other thing, because I am told that the drum beating for an early election is being led by the opposition, and I'm told in more recent times that the leader of the opposition has been meeting in Barbados in preparation for an election. I'm not sure why he's in such a hurry to be defeated again.
Good question. It's a good question. And to add to that, General Secretary, you know sometimes people tell you there are not enough hours in the day because you come to work so early and you're so busy and the time just flies. I just want to remind Mr. Nelson, we're not even halfway yet. Halfway is actually at the end of February in 2024 because remember they were sworn in August, if we want to look at that. So we still have a few more months to go. We are not even halfway, and the government of St. Lucia has done so much, so I can understand why you think, time is passing so quickly. But can you imagine that we are not even halfway through? We are not even halfway through, and we have been able to achieve so much. In addition, what we really need to highlight is, whilst the youth economy was a flagship project, a flagship promise for the St. Lucia Labour Party, the brainchild of our political leader, we are seeing the youth economy actually coming into effect. So yes, those young persons were able to access finance, they were able to access training, they were able to access mentorship support and marketing. If you attended the Taiwanese trade show, or the trade show hosted by the government and people of Taiwan, you would see a number of business entities of young persons, owned by young persons, who benefited from the youth economy. So we are already seeing that the youth economy is actually working. And although it was for a short space of time, we really look forward to seeing more of our young people put on their businesses and for us to see them continue to shine. In addition to Sunday's conference, the St. Lucia Labour Party has to say thank you again. And so, General Secretary, we did mention that we will be awarding persons across constituencies.
Thanks for mentioning.
Yes, so we will be awarding someone a stalwart for their continued hard work and unwavering support of the SLP. And yes, that includes Castries North. Yes, that includes Castries Central. All constituencies will be represented, and that's Mico South, that's also Choiseul Saltipus will be represented at the open conference on Sunday.
Fair enough. I know you usually have the jargon about you should not politicize crime and whatnot, but crime is a very real thing here in St. Lucia. My question is, do you think that the health and citizen security levy is enough to really tackle the issue, or is there more that really can be done to really holistically address the issue?
The health and security levy is supposed to provide a level of financing, resources to assist us in dealing with the crime problem. But it is not the solution. The solution, you have seen the measures we have taken. We have taken measures to strengthen the hands of the police. We have taken measures to improve the working conditions of the police. We have provided them with training. When we came in, the budget for training for police was $0. It's now over $1 million. We are taking social interventions. It is a combination of different approaches that you have to put into place, where in fact it is now recognized in the Caribbean that you need a whole of societal approach to dealing with crime. It is a public problem. It is not simply a matter that can be dealt with easily, and that is why you realize government after government we are faced with the same challenge. So we cannot politicize crime, but at the same time, we don't expect the health and security levy to be the solution to the problem. The fact is you are putting a lot of resources into these two areas, health and security. We are building the Northern Divisional Police Station. We are going back to build the custody suites. We are now renovating the Vieux-Fort Southern Division for $3.5 million. So all of these things are going to take a lot of resources. Do you simply try to squeeze it out of the revenue that you have, or do you ask the society to make a little sacrifice because you need more money to finance these developments? And this is what we are saying. We need to find a means to support it. But we're not putting the money in a lockbox. It's going into consolidated funds. But we need more money. And I can tell you, we expect to raise something like $30 million per year. The additional expenditure we are taking far exceeds $30 million. So it's not going to solve the problem, but it's going to assist, because you cannot keep adding expenditure to your budget and you don't have any revenue source to support it. So it's simply an additional revenue stream to help us put into consolidation funds so that we can finance the initiatives under security and health.
Can you speak to some of these social interventions that have been put in place to address the issue as well?
Well, the SSDF have been working with communities. The Ministry of Education have been working with communities. We have had interventions in Vieux-Fort. In fact, we have an office in Vieux-Fort now where people can go in to help social assistance. So there are a number of different initiatives that are taking place. Some of them do not come to my mind right away. But what I'm aware of is that we are not simply using a law enforcement approach alone. It is law enforcement and other social interventions to try to deal with the crime problem.
But how effective are these programs? Has an audit been done over a period of time to see how successful these interventions are? Because currently I think we're at 72 homicides for the year. Given our population in the OACS, it's high, and obviously crime remains a serious problem for any successive administration. So you
Okay,
speak
so
of this program, so how effective and how can we know how effective?
Well, I think the effectiveness will happen over time. Over time, you will see it. But if you were to take out the first 2 months of the year, when you have that spate of crime in Vieux Fort, where almost 20 to 25 homicides occurred, if you take it out of the general figure, you'd realize it has not been as bad as it was last year. The fact is, they did occur, but that was a hot spot. And to a large extent, we have been able to curb that hot spot. But I'm not in a position to really give you an assessment of the effectiveness of it. But all I will say is that we should not expect it to happen overnight. The interventions will take some time to happen, but we expect as next year come around, the year after, we will have a better handle on the crime situation in the country.
Since we're talking about the levy, it ends in 2025.
Yeah.
How will that affect the party's chances at the next election? Considering,
You're asking me to look into the crystal ball, which I don't think I have the ability to do.
I'm sure
okay,
you've all been strategizing.
yeah. I'm saying that, okay, as we here representing our party, and we don't want to get too deep into government. What we can tell you is that the policies of the government are being supported by the party, and the party will hold the government accountable for the promises it made in the manifesto. If your question gets a bit too technical in terms of actual governance, this is not for us, because that's for the actual political leader and the politicians and those persons. But what I can tell you is crime is of serious concern to all of us. Whether you are an ordinary citizen or whether you are an executive of the Labour Party. And we understand the implications of getting a handle over the crime situation. There are other issues that we know that we need to also deliver to the people. If you listen to people in the country, they are saying to you clearly, delivering on St. Jude's Hospital and curbing the crime situation are two of the major problems that they would like to see resolved. And the roads. So the Prime Minister has announced, and I think in the next budget, but he has indicated next year will be the year of infrastructure, and we are going to attack the roads in a very serious way. But I don't want to get too much into governance, because we are not ministers, we are not permanent secretaries.
Since you're on a party level,
yes.
What would determine the slate of the composition of the candidates for the next election?
Come on, you want to take that one?
Can I take this one first? Can I take this one first? Because I believe if you have been following how the slate of candidates of the Labour Party is evolving, you will realize that we are adding more and more women into the slate. In fact, a remarkable place to look is in the Senate. If you look there, you will see the high presence of women. It so happens that I'll share this with you, because the political leader of our party is very gung-ho on trying to attract women into the politics of the country, making room for women. Now, and I think it's a good thing. So sometimes when we look at potential candidates, his first look is whether there is a woman who can fill that slot, okay? I have a slightly different philosophy. I think that you first must look at who has the best connection with the community, whether it's male or female. So I don't have no issue with it being a woman, But I don't think a woman should just be selected because of her gender. I think she has to fit the purpose for which you're looking for the candidate for that particular constituency. But I raise the issue, I point to the issue of, not the issue, but the disposition of our political leader towards attracting more and more women into the politics. And I think as we develop the next slate of candidates, I think you will begin to see more and more of that happening, okay? So how do we decide, Sheffield? Basically, I think in a way I'm answering the question, because what we do is I will tell you, we have a selection process that does not secure anybody before an election, no matter whether you now hold a seat or not. It doesn't matter whether you're an incumbent or not. When the time comes to select candidates, the field is open. The field is open for challenges to anybody, any aspirant, any person who aspires to be a candidate for the Labour Party from any constituency can challenge even the incumbent, okay? And what the leadership says to the existing parliamentarians and so on is that you should have no fear of that. Because if you have done a job that the people support, you should have no fear about a challenge. The challenge can't succeed against you if you have maintained that link that you need to hold with the electorate in your constituency. So the selection process starts off at a point where the party, under the direction of the political leader, gives a directive to open the field for applications from persons who are interested. Then we look at background, we check who is connected, who is not connected. We go on the ground, we do our own checks and so on. We interview people who are interested. We try to sort of measure what metal they're coming with. And then at the extreme end, if necessary, there's what we call a runoff. And a runoff can be posed. A challenge, as I said, can be posed, and therefore a runoff is possible in any constituency. All right? So there's what we call the de-endorsement of all existing persons before an election, and then we begin the process. There are some people, of course, by their very performance, I think they have no fear about being, selected. And in the end, you may have some seats where you may want to look, to probe deeper, to see what exists in the field for the candidate of that, for that particular area.
I know last election, Castries Central and Castries North was not contested by the St. Lucia Labour Party.
Correct.
Will that continue, or will the...
It's too early to answer that question. I'm not, and I don't think we can decide that, because that has not been a discussion at this point in time. It all has to do with strategy, political strategy. If it is determined that it is to the advantage of the party to go in that direction, then I suppose we'll go in that direction. But a decision of that kind has not been made at this point in time.
Still too early to tell.
Still too early to tell.
I wanted to ask, young people sometimes tend to feel as though they're being utilized as political objects in the political arena. And besides the youth economy and these other areas, how is the party itself targeting the youth? Because I know there are various organizations in every constituency. So how is the party itself tackling the issues young people face and getting them geared towards the elections? As well as to follow up what my colleague said about having young people sit at the helm.
We'll let a young person answer that question.
It would
Being ostracized as well too, because when you have affiliation to either political party, there seems to be that sense of apprehension when it comes to the other side as well. So I guess
Yeah, thank you for that question. I believe it's so important for us to have that discussion. We have a very active SLPYO. St. Lucia Labour Party Youth Organization. And I actually held a meeting with the leadership of the organization yesterday to ask communications support for the party, just get an idea of how we can continue to assist them. And they have been hosting town hall meetings. They have been meeting in several constituencies. They've met in over 7 constituencies so far, pushing, yes, what the promises of the SLP were and how we've been able to achieve that, including the youth economy, like you mentioned. And as I gave the example earlier, which really speaks to the fact that it is not about political pawns. Honorable Philip J. Pierre will never be in a room with young people and tell them that you think you're too privileged, like previous parliamentarians did. In fact, he is the one championing the youth economy. He's the one who's been able to get support from the Caribbean Development Bank. He's the one who put the youth economy office on the chaussee, where people would say, why would you go there? But that's where the young people are. That's where they are. And we're bringing the resources to them. And by extension, the proposed expansion to the south. So we're not just talking the talk, we are walking the walk. And as I mentioned earlier, we saw that come into play at the expo over the weekend, where these same young people were given an opportunity to put their items on display from the support that they got from the youth economy. As a young person in the politics, I'm very proud to say that not only has the leadership of the party chosen young people to sit in the Senate, but they're qualified, they're experienced young people. And that is the caliber of people who support the Labour Party and people who continue to push and who are pushed within the Labour Party. We have Senator Kejiana Tuse. She sits in the Senate with me, dynamic young lady, representing the fishers, the farmers, the people of the South, coming with a different perspective on what really impacts young people. And like the deputy chairman of the party mentioned, when we develop our manifesto, all of these auxiliary groups, including the SLPYO, is brought to the table. And the manifesto comes out of concerns and promises and hope of the people on the ground, and the leadership, the strategists, they put these things together. So young people are always given an opportunity to be pushed. As a young person, I was recently elected as VP of Pal Americas for Gender Equality. At the time, I was under 35. You understand? And I think given that opportunity where Honorable Philip J. Pierre says, yes, if you are capable, yes, if you are ready, yes, if you are willing, there's a seat for you at the table at the SLP. And so for the conference, when we go to Babono on Monday, everyone is. On Sunday, November 12th, everyone is welcome. Party supporters, wear your red, don't wear your red. Wear your yellow, don't wear your yellow. It doesn't matter. There will be bus arranged for you. Each constituency will be sharing details of where the pickup locations are and the drop-off locations are. And we encourage everybody to come on board. There will be an exciting, packed agenda, like the General Secretary mentioned. It will be filled with entertainment, and you will see a lot of display, especially by young people.
And we look forward to hosting the media.
Yes, and we hope that you attend on Sunday.
On Sunday, yeah.
I just want to add something to the aspect of young people in politics. This is not unique to St. Lucia. Young people are just not attracted to politics worldwide. It's not a phenomenon that takes place in St. Lucia alone. But if you look at the composition of the parliament of St. Lucia, you would see young St. Lucians on the side of the Labour Party. You talk about Jeremiah Norbert, became an MP at 30. You talk about Tennis Kazemi. You talk about Lisa in the Senate. We are trying our best to encourage young people to participate in politics. But young people don't listen to news you're putting out there. They don't watch television. They don't even watch the news on their phone anymore. So you have to find them where they are. Whether it's on Instagram, you have to find them. You have to find ways and means of reaching young people. But it's probably an aspect of where we are in the world today. That when I was growing up in the 70s, and before that, and even in the 80s, we had something to fight for as young people. Because, you know, the conscience of a society is propelled by young people. They are the one who rebel. They are the one, university students and high school students. They are the one who go on the streets and demonstrate because They want society to change. But today, young people in the Caribbean seem to have nothing to fight for. They're not interested in politics. We're not fighting for independence like in the 70s. We're not fighting to get civil rights like in the 60s. You ask yourself, what is it that will attract them so that they become the conscience of the society? And maybe we have not found that thing. But my point is, the Labour Party has a very active youth organization. The Labour Party tries to attract young people into politics. And if you look at our present composition, you would see that we are trying to move young people along. In fact, we were the party that had a minister at 21. Minister Rambali at 21 was a minister. So we have a record of trying to attract young people into the politics, but it is not as easy as, we are not using them as pawns. We genuinely want young people to get involved in politics, but they are not attracted to politics like in the 70s and 60s and 80s. And we probably have some serious work to do along these lines.
Wouldn't you agree that the occurrences and behaviors of politicians could be a contributing factor to the fact that, as you say, young people are not interested in politics?
Yeah, probably, and sometimes I would say I'm disappointed that you move from the generation of John Compton and Bousquet and Julian Hunt, and you see some persons who are mature and they come into politics, and you expect the MEPUI and these things to stop, but it just continues. We have people in the politics today, you would expect better of them. You know, it's like we complain that this is not the politics we want, and we get into the politics and we just continue to perpetuate the same behavior. In fact, the behavior is getting worse today. There are a set of politicians in politics today that are 10 times worse than those who were the last generation before. So I agree with you. We need to make the change. The persons who are in leadership position need to conduct themselves in politics in a manner that people see it as an honorable profession. And maybe that's not happening.
Would you say that with the way that we are operating in this political hemisphere that we're in, that there can be some level of scarcity of people who are interested in not only leading the parties but going up for ministerial positions in the future?
I don't know whether this is scarcity. What I see happening in St. Lucia is that when you decide that politics is not for honorable people, you leave it for the bad people. But remember, politics is leadership. This is governance. Ministers, prime ministers. If we believe that it is not something honorable, the guys who are not supposed to be there, they are going to fill the gap. So you need to encourage your children and to say to them, politics is an honorable thing. It may have bad elements in it, but it does not mean that good people should not go into it. You understand me? So it's for us to try to change the perception of what it is by having people who are genuine, who are willing to contribute, talented people to come into politics to serve the public interests and not their own personal interests. But if the good people stay away, the bad people are going to take it over.
You refer to the politicians, well, those who exist now being 10 times worse than the generation.
Yeah, I see some of that.
Are you seeing that on your side or only on the other
I don't see it on our side.
You don't
I
see
see it on the other side. I see some elements on the other side. I mean, John Compton would turn in his grave to hear them representing his party.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
Yeah, for you as well, America, we've seen some, I think ever since the SLP government has come to power, we've seen certain attacks at some members of the party, not really on policy, but just doing some other stuff. With Prime Minister, I believe it was his BMW at the start. Jeremiah Norbert at the time had to leave his vehicle and buying it for some $200,000, I believe. And then more recently, I believe there was a situation with Mr. Henson Casimir at his house and whatnot. What do you make of some of those?
Well,
I guess.
that is really to emphasize the question by Mr. Harrow on youth participation and youth interest. These are some of the things that would discourage young people from participating in politics. I remember sitting on a platform on a Wednesday night market step meeting. I was invited to be part of the discussion, and on Saturday morning, front page, I was posted, and a few days later I lost my job. And that's the thing that some people, they question. And yes, I was victimized by the opposition. And for several years, I was unemployable, if that is a term, because people don't want to touch you with a 6-foot pole because it is you're exercising your constitutional right. Hopefully what I am doing, hopefully what Senator Kejiana is doing, what Honorable Henson Casimir is doing, what Honorable Jeremiah Norbert is doing, is really being beacons of hope to tell young people like yourself that if you want to get into politics, it's not a bad thing. Politics is how you govern. It is up to you to decide the road that you take in how you govern. And so we have been disappointed with the remarks by persons on the opposite side, and I have to support what Deputy Chair said. You do not see that type of behavior from SLP members of Parliament. You do not see that. We are above the water. We do not get in the gutter with these personal attacks. And yes, we noted that there was a likability report that appeared to have been leaked, but whatever that was in that report that spoke of attacks on Honorable Henson Casimir, on Honorable Wayne, and Honorable Norbert, and the Prime Minister, that is exactly what we are seeing happening today. I mean, it was clear that certain assets were purchased prior to election, but still they were made public. And it was the intention of the opposition to attack the family members and these members of Parliament. But that does not derail. I see a lot of work is on the ground. I see Honorable Jeremiah Norbert weekly has persons in Mykonos doing the business of the people who elected him. Remember, we made history, a party that is known for making history. History in Mykonos, history in Grozele, and I don't know if the history has some people a bit shaken. But, with that said, I want to encourage young people of St. Lucia to understand that if you have a voice and you want to speak, and you have that conviction and passion to represent your country, do not be discouraged by these things. The St. Lucia Labour Party supports the efforts of young people. The St. Lucia Labour Party welcomes new persons into the party. All are welcome. Of course, we see many crossing lines. We do realize that we now have a coalition government, so to speak, because persons are saying enough is enough. And as Deputy Chair said, Sir John probably would be turning in his grave at certain comments that are made by some party leaders of his party. And so we just want to, again, if we don't have any further questions, I see we have several more questions. Okay.
Since you mentioned the coalition government, how does that affect the SLP's chances going into the next generation?
In what way?
Another political party coming up that obviously it can divide, split seats in key areas, that sort of thing. Is there any concern on the part of the party?
As General Secretary said before, the question of how you deal with Central and Cassis North is not a matter to be determined now. It's a matter of strategy, which is what we did at the last election. From a strategy standpoint, it was better for us to stay out and allow a two-party fight. For all you know, by the time we get into next election, the same representatives now could well be running on a Labour ticket. We just don't know. So we have to allow it to play out. But what I can tell you is we are in a stronger position today we believe, than we were when we fought the last general election. And we are going to ensure that whatever decisions we make would be tactically in the interest of ensuring that we form the government. Because forming a government is not about your party having every seat. It's about who you can work with to form a government. So we have no issues. We have no issues working with independents to form the government, if tactically that is to our benefit. We don't have to have a representative running every single seat. What we need are numbers more than 9 to form the government. That is what is tactically important to us.
Just one question from me, and that's to you, Ms. Joy. You mentioned how do we, as I guess revolutionary parties right now, how do we get around these instances of political victimization against the betterment of society?
Well, the SLP is leading by example. Honorable Philip J. Pierre has maintained his position on inclusivity. He's maintained his position on not prematurely terminating contracts unless it would have been absolutely necessary. So you would remember when we came into office, several ambassadors still held roles under the United Workers' Party. They were allowed to continue. Remember when we came in, there were certain calls from some chiefs in certain departments to demit office. We allowed them to continue. And you know, as I mentioned, leading by example is what we want our next generation to see. That you are not going to be terminated if you are doing your work. There are a lot of people who are still in office who support heavily the United Workers' Party, but they get their work done. And as long as you get your work done and you are putting people first, then there's absolutely no issue. Last question from Mr. Harrow.
There was a press release released by the St. Lucia Labour Party indicating some incidents with noise pollution in the Grizzly area. So some have incited that, you know, they have sent slander towards the Labour Party, to the Prime Minister, the Honorable Ernest Hill, and several other persons. So how is the party responding to this situation at hand, and what measures should we say the government is taking place to help mitigate this situation?
So we will not speak on behalf of the government, but yes, we did put out a press release. And we're very concerned because we understand that there are a lot of persons who would not have shared the views that were shared in the press release by the residents of Rodney Bay. Some of the comments were allegations against members of office. They were unsubstantiated. And so we had to ensure that we responded and inform the public that yes, if we are coming together to share our voice on issues that affect all of us, then let us do so, and let us do so in a manner that is not politically attacking. Of course, it is your right to affiliate, but let's focus on the issue. And so we have not seen anything to substantiate some of the allegations made. And in addition to that, as it relates to what government is doing, I will only reiterate what has been said. The Member of Parliament for Grizzly has held about 4 meetings, inclusive of meetings with residents, meetings with the police, meetings with business owners. And the next step to that was where he did inform them that legislation is being looked at with the Attorney General. I think the most recent meeting was about 3 months ago. So you can imagine that things would still be in the discussion stage and the drafting stage. So this is where we are with that response. Okay, so we just want to thank you, the members of the media. We did not expect to have such a lengthy discussion with you, but judging from the first time in a long time, thank you for being with us this morning. To you persons who are at home viewing, thank you for tuning into the St. Lucia Labour Party's press conference. We hope to see you very soon. And of course, all roads lead to Babono on Sunday, November 12th. All roads lead to Babono at 3 p.m. at the Foasor Primary School. Again, please make arrangements with your constituency, your SLP branch, to ensure that you access the bus. Whether you are a supporter, come one, come all. We will be recognizing our stalwarts. We will be showing our appreciation, and it will be a celebration with our political leader and the St. Lucia Labour Party. We are moving forward together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.